Hello, everybody. Today we're going to talk about writing inequalities. So we've talked a little bit about writing expressions. We're going to be talking about writing equations coming up. This is kind of in between steps. So how do we write inequalities? So writing inequality is a lot like writing expression, and it's a lot like writing what an equation will be. Except we're going to be using these inequality symbols. So these are ones you've seen before. Um, at this point, our goal should be to make sure we can say the name of the inequality just from what it looks like without considering what numbers are on either side. So a lot of times you can say, oh, well, this number is the bigger one or that number is the bigger one. Okay, but we need to be able to look at this symbol and say, well, this is a greater than symbol, whereas this is a less than symbol. Okay, and the way to remember which is which, you probably learned the alligator eats the bigger number or something similar, is to remember that we read a sentence a math sentence just like we read an English sentence, left to right. Okay, so if you have two numbers here, so the first number, the second number here, the alligator is eating the first number. That says the first number is greater than the second number. Okay, so anytime it's eating the first number or facing the mouth is facing to the left, it's a greater than. Okay, if it's facing to the right, that means the first number is less than the second number, so that's a less than. Okay, some people remember that this looks kind of like an L as a reminder. Okay, so there's greater than, less than. There's also greater than or equal to. It's just a greater than with a line under it. And the only difference between greater than and greater than or equal to is that we're allowing for the possibility that the numbers are the same. Okay, so greater than or equal to means this number is either bigger than the second number or they're the same. Okay, whereas in this case, the first number has to be bigger. Okay, so if the numbers are the same, this would be the true, but this wouldn't be. Okay, same for less than and less than or equal to. So less than just means strictly the first number is smaller than the second one. Here, the first number can be smaller or the same, it just can't be bigger. Okay, so make sure you're familiar with those symbols. There's some keywords to look out for. I don't think you need to write down the actual name of the symbols, although those will be used a lot of times, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. But there's some other ways that might be phrased that you want to keep an eye out for. So for less than, you might see fewer than. That's just another way of saying less than. For greater than, you might hear more than or exceeds. Right? If your age exceeds 18, that means you're more than 18. Okay, exceeds means to be bigger than. Okay, for less than or equal to, you might hear no more than. Okay, so remember, less than or equal to means the first number can be less than the second number, or they can be the same. It just can't be bigger. So we're saying no more than that is that number or less. Okay, so anytime you see no more than, that should tell you it's a less than or equal to sign. Okay, or at most. That same idea. If you can be, at most 13 to order a kid's meal, that means you need to be 13 or less, right? You just can't be more. So the highest your age could be would be 13. So that's a less than or equal to. Okay. Greater than or equal to, you might see no less than, which you might see kind of a parallel here. This is no more than, this is no less than. So if something is greater than or equal to another number, it just can't be less. Okay, or at least. At least means the same thing. At the smallest, it's going to be something. So you might say you need to be at least 18 to vote. So your age needs to be 18 or greater. Okay, greater than or equal to 18. Okay, so at least you're going to be having a greater than or equal to symbol. So these ones for sure, you want to make sure you know what those imply. All right, let's do a few examples. So like we did with expressions, a lot of times we can just write these word for word left to right. So it's saying the value of x is less than 9. So x is less than, I know what less than means, 9. Okay. Now, please notice less than was a keyword that we looked at before and where it means subtraction. The difference here is we're not saying x less than 9. X less than 9 would mean we were subtracting, but it says x is less than 9. So when you see this word is, that's an indicator that it's going to be an inequality or later on an equation. So is less than is this less than symbol. Okay. Same thing here. X is more than 15. So x is more than means greater than 15. X is more than 15. Okay. Value of x is at most 7. Okay, so x is at most. So remember, at most, if we look at our chart, at most means less than or equal to. Right? If the most it can be is 7, it's going to be either 7 or less than 7. So x is less than or equal to 7. Okay. Last one here, we got 12 is more than x. Okay, so say 12 is more than, is again greater than x. Now, the tricky part about this one is you might have noticed in all of these, we started with the x. We started with the variable. Here, the variable is at the end. Now, this isn't an untrue statement, but this is kind of telling you something about 12 when we want the statement to be saying something about x. So anytime the variable is on the right side, we want to rewrite it so that it's on the left. Okay. So if 12 is more than x, do you see how the alligator is eating the 12? I want to rewrite it so that the x comes first, but the inequality is still going to be choosing the same number. So the inequality is facing the 12. We want to do it that way. So the inequality ends up flipping around when we switch order. So it follows these when we switch the order. So I'm going to write that as x is less than 12, okay? Which is saying the same thing as 12 is more than x. Okay? If I were to say, 12 is more than your age, that's the same thing as saying your age is less than 12. Okay, so flip them around so that the x comes first, or the variable comes first, and then the sign has to switch when you do that too. All right, why don't you try these? So I'm going to pause the video here for a little bit and see if you can come up with these. All right, welcome back, everybody. Hopefully these are the answers that you got. 10 is not more than x. Well, if it's not more than x, that means it's either less than or equal to x. Those are the only other options. So 10 is less than or equal to x, which we'd want to switch around so that the x is coming first. We'd write that as x is greater than or equal to 10. So remember, when those switch, the alligator mouth is facing the x. It's got to still flip around to face the x when we change it. Okay, the value of x is less than or equal to 6. That one's straightforward. X less than or equal to 6. Okay, 4 is less than x. 4 less than x. Again, the x comes second, so we got to switch it to x is greater than 4. Okay, this one, the value of x is not greater than. So if it's not greater than 8, it's either less than or equal to 8. So x is less than or equal to 8. Okay, so here's how it might come to you in some real life situations. And these are the inequalities that you would use to represent those statements. All right, let's try some challenging ones. All right, so just like we had before, we started with the easier ones. Let's see if we can do some trickier ones. Now, with these, again, they may look intimidating, but we're just going to kind of word for word. I think it'll come together a little easier than it looks. Okay, so 19 more than. Now here we have not is more than, but just more than. So this is, remembering back to our expressions keywords, that means addition. So 19 more than 7 times a number. So if it just says a number, we don't know what that number is. We need a variable. So I'll just use x. 7 times a number, we'll do 7x. Now here I see the is. So here's where my inequality is going to happen. Is at most. Okay. At most means it's going to be less than or equal to. Okay, and then 8. So 19 plus 7x is less than or equal to 8. All right, let's try another one. 14 more than, again, it's more than, not is more than. So this is plus 14 more than 2 times a number. I'll choose x again. So we're multiplying by some number x. Is at least means greater than or equal to 1. So 14 plus 2x is greater than or equal to 1. Okay. All right. Why don't we pause here for just a sec and see if you can do this one yourself. All right. So welcome back. Here we have a less than. We got to be careful then. 12 less than means I'm going to be subtracting 12 from something. Okay, 12 less than 4 times a number. Okay. So 4 times number is 4x. So we got 4x minus 12. And it says is less than 6. Okay, so that one got a little tricky with the less than, but it should be 4 times x minus 12 is less than 6. Okay. Last one, 4 times the difference. So 4, I'm going to multiply. Now I'm going to be careful here because it says 4 times the difference. Okay, so I'm not multiplying 4 by any one of these numbers individually. I'm multiplying 4 times the difference. So this is another example like we saw with expressions where I need to have parentheses. There's an implied parentheses. Because if I'm multiplying 4 times the difference, I have to find out what the difference is first. Okay, so the difference between x and 6 is x minus 6. Okay, 4 times that difference is less than 2. Okay, so 4 times x minus 6 in parentheses is less than 2. All right, so let's do a quick challenge here. So here I have a real life situation that may or may not have happened. I will read it for you, and let's see if we can come up with an inequality that represents this situation. Okay? So here's the expression. I went to the casino and doubled my money. Then I spent $7 on the buffet. If I have enough to afford the $35 t-shirt from the gift shop, write an inequality to express how much money I had before going to the casino. So how much money is the thing I don't know, so that's my variable. Okay, so M is going to equal the money I had. All right, so let's pause the video here if we have time and see if you can come up with an expression or an inequality for that. Good luck. All right, so here is what we should have. So if M is the amount of money we have, we're going to start with M, and we can just take it kind of one step at a time, see what happened to this number. The first thing that happened is I doubled my money. So now I'm just going to multiply that amount by 2. That's how much I have now. Okay. Then I spent $7 on the buffet. Okay, so I got to subtract 7. Okay, for how much I spent on the buffet. Okay. So what I know is that now, after doing those two things, I have enough to afford the $35 t-shirt. Well, if I have enough to afford the $35 t-shirt, I might have exactly $35, or I might have more. I can't have less, but I have to have more than or equal to $35 at this point. Okay, so there's my expression. 2m minus 7 is greater than or equal to 35. That will represent this, and later on when we get solving, this will be something I could solve to figure out how much money I must have had to start. All right. Good luck, everybody.